Hey, it's William Merlini from Flowers and Scents with your floral industry buzz. Today we're going to interview Lane Devries from Sun Valley Floral Farms in Arcadia, California. And Lane is an icon in the business and been around a while, and he grows beautiful flowers out in California like nobody else. So you should know about him. So without further ado, Lane Devries from Sun Valley Floral Farm. Hey, Lane DeVries, welcome to Flowers and Scents, and thank you for taking the time to be here.
You're
It's
very welcome.
a pleasure to have you as always, and nice to see you and in your element there. Hey, how's the weather been out there? I don't know us. This East Coast people, we like to get West Coast news about bad weather.
Yeah.
You got some cold, I guess at least, huh?
Well, we have had a long period of below average temperatures for about 10 weeks.
Hmm,
And for the last several weeks, it's been warmer than normal. And now we have received a good amount of rain, which California needs rain. So it's,
badly.
it's a very good thing. The mountains on the east are filling up with a good snowpack. The lakes are starting to fill up. So Southern California will have more water available at the rate things are going. So that's
Good.
good.
Well, they certainly need it. So.
Yes.
Hey, Lane, how'd you get in the flower business? You're a Dutch guy, of course, and
Yes.
I think everybody in Holland, all the Dutch people grow up on flower farms, right? Don't they? And
Yep. And in that sense, I'm no different. I'm a fourth generation flower farmer. My family grew tulips and daffodils and summer flowers for many generations. And so I grew up among the tulips as a kid. And so tulip growing is in my blood, and flower growing is in my blood, I suppose. I
that
mean,
was
it's
in
one of the things
Amsterdam.
that's pretty hard to get rid of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where were you in Amsterdam or Westland, or where were you in Holland?
Close to Amsterdam, just on the west side of Amsterdam, there's a growing area, Beverwijk, Heemskerk, where there are a fair amount of tulip growers or tulip forces rather, that grew the flowers, and so it's in that area where I grew up. Correct.
And then suddenly, here you are in America. So somehow you made it across the pond and kept growing.
Yes, in 1983, I came to this great country with $160 in my pocket, and I was brought in to help a company called Oregon Bulb Farms, which was owned by Melridge in those days. They needed to set up a lily flower program. They were large bulb growers and hybridizers of many of the Asiatic varieties in those days, but they did not have a strong flower program. So that's the main reason they hired me from Holland to come over and help set that up. And so I started in Oregon for a few months. And while I was there, I heard him talking about the potential acquisition of a company called Sun Valley. And in Sun Valley in those days was a field grower of daffodils in the winter, iris in the spring, but they also had the Oriental hybridizing program, of which the Stargazer lily and La Rave lily and a number of other famous varieties of the 80s all kind of originated in that hybridizing program right here in Arcata. And so that was the main interest of Oregon Bulb Farms to buy the hybridizing program of Sun Valley in those days. And so when I heard about the potential purchase of Sun Valley, I started looking at the climate here in Arcata versus the climate in the Willamette Valley, where Oregon Bulb Farms was located, and because the purpose was to set up a flower program, for Oregon Bulb Farms in the Willamette Valley. But the temperatures in the summertime are very warm in the Willamette Valley. It's very dark there in the winter months. And so I started looking at the climate data here in Arcata and Eureka, and things, looked a lot better to me. So I put a report together for the CEO of the company in those days, and I said, if you were to buy Sun Valley, if that becomes reality, it would be my choice to actually set up a greenhouse operation in Arcata rather than in the Willamette Valley, and that's exactly what ended up happening.
So at that point, that was still Melridge.
At that point, it was still Melridge. Yes, Sun Valley was all owned by Melridge for about 3 years. From actually a little bit longer, from 1984 through 1988. No.
And Melridge, of course, ended up blowing up and being sort of a mess, I think.
Yes,
So
yes.
how did you end up with Sun Valley after that?
So we ended up. I put together a group with two prominent Dutch bulb growers and hybridizers, and the three of us actually bought the Sun Valley asset out of the bankruptcy estate.
Oh, okay.
And this actually happened in November of 1991. So.
Oh, well, it was a great name. Sun Valley Floral is a beautiful name. So I'm glad you got the name because it's a good one.
Well, the name of the company was actually Sun Valley Bulb Farms. And
Okay.
obviously, it's kind of a misnomer because we didn't grow any bulbs anymore. We just were growing flowers. So in 1991, that's also when we changed the name to Sun Valley Floral Farms
Okay.
because that's what we do. We grow flowers.
You grow flowers, and you grow lots of flowers, and lots of different kinds of flowers, mostly bulb crops, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah. Tulips are our number one crop. Lilies are number two. Iris is a strong third. And then we have, some of the smaller crops like hyacinths and some crocosmias and those type of crops. But yeah, we are specialized in bulb flowers because they do very well in this climate right here in Arcata.
You
And one of
doing
the things,
you doing peonies as well?
we do some peonies, but we only do peonies outside the normal seasons. So we do peonies in the February, March time frame. And then again, we do have peonies in July and August. So we try to stay out of the areas where either the Southern Hemisphere or the Northern Hemisphere has abundant production and there's no sense,
No.
swimming in that pool. So we're just, trying to find those niches.
Okay. And you also grow, which I've seen all over the internet, your ilex, which is
Yes,
sort of like
yes.
how perfect for Christmas. They look like they're illuminated. Those red beads or berries look like they're on fire.
I know. We started a farm in Willow Creek, which is about roughly an hour east of Arcata. It's a location essentially in the mountains, a completely different climate than Arcata, where the
Mm.
summertime temperatures in Arcata are in the mid 60s. The summertime temperatures in Willow Creek are in the mid 90s to over 100.
Ooh.
And the winters are colder. So it's a perfect place, and it's more comparable in a way to the Oregon climate. And so it's the perfect place to grow shrub type crops. That's why we grow the rose hips there. We grow the ilex, and so yeah, and so that we have been doing that for the last 2 decades.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, beautiful flowers and very timely here for Christmas. I like those a lot, and they certainly look nice. And all right, so moving on a little bit, you
can
happen
we
to
talk a little
be,
bit more about ilex?
yeah, tell me more.
So in 2006, we started a hybridizing program to actually come up with a better ilex because
Okay.
ilex has been around for hundreds of years. The main variety of ilex is the Oosterwijk variety, which is abundantly grown in Holland. And Oosterwijk has a tendency to be really wild and have long laterals. And the only way to keep them short is to either spray them with growth retardant, like Alar or B9,
Yeah,
or to cut the roots, which is very labor intensive.
yeah,
Or otherwise, you need to start trimming all the edges of the stems, which typically they have about 8 to 10 inches of no berries.
yeah.
So we started a program to find a way to get these berries to stay closer on the stem. And so we started selecting on short laterals, heavy berry set, large berries, and also high production of the varieties. And so that's how we ended up with a number of varieties. We start in the fall with a variety called Autumn Spirit, which is an orange one. And then we have Salmon Spirit, which is a light orange one. And then we have the one for Christmas, which is called Winter Spirit. And that's the one you probably have seen
Yeah, it's
on Instagram a lot in the last few weeks. And
yeah.
now we have a new variety called Golden Spirit, which is a kind of a gold orangey variety that is also for the fall
And so
months.
these are selections that you've essentially bred. You
Correct.
you hybridized, I guess is the right word, to make them do what you want them to do.
Correct. Yeah. So we have four varieties now that are patented. And so we have our own series. We call them the Spirit series of Ilex, and we're really seeing a great acceptance of those varieties in the marketplace.
Yeah, and I think you said somewhere along the line they don't tangle up as much. The berries stay on the plant and they don't get all tangled up right out of the box. And
Exactly. One of the things, if you look closely at the berry set of an Oosterwijk, they'll have a little stem on the berry. So
mm,
from that wood, there's a short little stem, and then you get the berry. And so then they get entangled and they fall off. But the
right.
one thing of is the winter spirit, the berries are right on top of the wood. And so that really limits the amount of berry drop.
Hey, you're a preacher as well, aren't you?
Yes, yes. It's one of my hobbies.
I
I've
know
not
that.
done it very much in the last several years, largely due to COVID. The church where I was doing it on a volunteer basis, closed down during COVID, and they have yet to open back up. But
Oh,
for a while there, on a monthly basis, I put a little message together, and you may have listened to some of them.
I
Uh,
did. That's how I know this. I listened to one of them, and I was impressed. Well, and frankly, it's totally logical because I've watched your passion for Women's Day and for flowers in general. But you're sort of the godfather of American Women's Day, and tell us about that because that's a March 8th holiday that well, you didn't create it. You're just promoting it, I believe.
it was
It's a big
there.
holiday in Europe.
Yep.
Uh, and it sort of fills that gap between Mother's Day and Valentine's Day, I guess.
Correct. Yeah, just to cycle back to the sermon thing you were talking about. I
Yeah.
put a little website together, and all those sermons are on a website called lanedevries.com. So
Oh,
anybody who wants to
oh,
listen
it
to
is.
it,
Okay.
you,
Okay.
you can check all 50 of them out. Some of them are just audio, and some of them are video. So anyway, so
Beautiful.
to get back to Women's Day, yes, um, 2010. SAF Congressional Action Days. That's when we had the kickoff, and I think you were there,
Yeah.
where and that happened to be on March 8th, that particular year,
Oh,
on that Tuesday. And so we went into Georgetown with 200 tulip bouquets, and we gave them away and got some press out of it. And so that was the kickoff of the Women's Day launch in the United States. Women's Day has been around for over 100 years. It actually
really?
started in New York City
Oh,
in 1908, and it started as a way a day to recognize women for all the things they do in society. And then for a while it completely kind of ebbed away, but it jumped to Russia and the East Bloc
uh-huh.
countries. Really in 1917 is when it started during the Russian Revolution. And
Mm,
it's been in Russia and the East Bloc countries all that time. And it's developed, particularly since the liberation of the USSR in the 90s. It really started booming into a huge holiday when supply of flowers became abundant from across the borders. And today, Women's Day in Russia and the East Bloc countries, or the former East Bloc countries, is a larger holiday than Valentine's Day or Mother's Day.
mm.
And so our thinking was, hey, it started in the U.S. Why not bring Women's
Bring
Day
it
back
back. Bring
as
it
a
back.
major flower holiday in the United States? And so that started, 12 years ago now. And I must say that as I talk to my peers in the industry, I think it's pretty well recognized that Women's Day is here to stay, and it's growing, and people are really rallying behind it, which I think is great. I mean, to have all the focus on Valentine's Day or Mother's Day as an
Yeah.
industry, I don't think is healthy. I think the
Not
more we
healthy.
spread it out through the course of the year, the more it actually will help overall floral consumption. And so I think there's many opportunities through the year, and Women's Day I think is the lowest hanging fruit of them all. It's right there, 50% of the population is eligible to receive flowers that day, and it's not color specific either. So it's a great way to latch on and to promote into making it another Mother's Day or Valentine's Day.
I agree with you, and as we can see on your shirt there, and if anybody that knows Lane DeVries and you stand around him long enough, you will get stuck with
You'll
that
get a
sticker.
sticker. Yes.
You'll be stuck with that sticker. And it reminds me of a little side note here. I one day I was invited to go and into a women's prison on Mother's Day to give out some flowers. And a friend of mine arranged this for me, and suddenly I gathered some flowers, some donations, and I went into this women's prison and went cell to cell, which was quite an extraordinary adventure anyway, giving out one flower to each woman that came out of these cells. And one woman came out and she said, "I don't want it." I said, "Why don't you want it?" She says, "I'm not a mother." I said, "Okay, well, you could be." She says, "No, I'm not a mother." I said, "Yeah, but you're a woman and you deserve a flower."
Yep.
And she took one. But it was quite humbling and quite different. But that it sort of exemplifies the point here that not everybody's a mother, but there are certainly women who could be or could not be, but they still can get a flower. I think it's a beautiful thing. And
that's the beauty. Yep.
Is there enough time after, let's see, what's that, like 3 weeks after Valentine's? Is there enough production still available at that point?
It depends on the type of flower. There are flowers that have short cycles, like tulips, for instance.
Okay.
They have a 3-week cycle, so supply of tulips for Women's Day is not an issue whatsoever.
Oh, okay. Okay, and Mother's Day, Women's Day is not a floral specific one. It's a flower, any kind of flower, right?
That's the other beauty of it. It's
Yeah.
not color specific or flower specific.
Can't get better than that in the flower business.
I know.
So, hey, Lane, what do you see in the flower business out there? And looking out. I mean, I've been like you. I've been to a lot of shows in the last year, and I guess the question people ask me the most is, what next? We had this COVID thing, which went from the end of the world to we can't get enough production, and people are wondering, is the other foot going to drop? I've talked to a lot of people in the Miami business, the South American business, who said that weddings at least had continued to go strong because everybody was catching up with their wedding venues. How are you seeing it?
I believe so too. I think weddings, so that wedding business will continue. We definitely saw a little bit more softness during the fall and into December. And yeah, there's production around. There's plenty of production around. Okay. But again, I think it underscores the necessity for all of us to keep looking at multiple floral holidays and not be so focused on this upcoming Valentine or then Mother's Day. And that's the beauty in a lot of European countries, or what the Dutch growers have the benefit of, that there are multiple holidays. The women of Mother's Day in England is at a different time than Mother's Day in some of the other European countries. Right. And so by having constantly holidays lined up through the course of the year will help overall demand. And it will also stimulate more consumption, because as long as flowers continue to be fresh, and that's one of the things that we saw in the later half of 2020 and throughout 2021, there was a shortage of flowers. Flowers were fresh, and right. Fresh flowers actually stimulate more demand and more consumption. So as long as we keep finding opportunities to create the holiday type of events that stimulate consumption of flowers, I think our industry will be just fine.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've sort of, my answer to people that ask me what's going on and what's going to happen, and I think that out of the 100% of people that never bought flowers before during COVID or before COVID, who suddenly started buying flowers and plants like crazy, I believe that 20% of that is going to stick. I don't know if I'm right, but that's my prediction, that I believe people that out of that 100% that suddenly realized flowers were good for them and plants and green things were good for them, that some 20% of it I think are going to continue to buy flowers, and that alone is a pretty big number, I think.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I hope I'm right too.
That would be great. But yeah, there's plenty of research that has shown over the years that flowers bring happiness, soothes the soul, and so I think that's a message we need to continue to keep spreading and keep ringing that bell.
Yeah, we need to keep that in front of people's face because it's true. And I think we got the best demonstration we could have ever gotten over these last couple of years because
Absolutely.
it was it was real. The flowers, they couldn't get enough flowers.
Right.
Hey, so Lane Devries, I appreciate your time here. I know you're a busy man, and I'm just a guy with a telephone and a website. So uh,
Well,
I will let you go back to doing your hard work, and it's beautiful work that you do. I appreciate your time and what you do because people that are passionate about flowers make this business really run. And there's a lot of people like you, but not so many. But they go to your extreme. But I love it. So continue to do what you're doing, and we appreciate it. And hope to see you soon somewhere, sir.
all right. Well, thank you very much, Willie, for the opportunity to spend a few minutes
And
on
it's
your
your website is TFV
no TSVG, the
tsvg.com.
sunvalleygroup.com. Yeah,
thesunvalleygroup.com. Perfect. I'll put that up on the site too. All right, sir. Thank you for your time and you have a great day.
beautiful. Well, thank you very much, and
Uh,
have a great day.
okay, tot ziens.
Tot ziens.